Hey folks, it's Keith. Dee-dee-dee-da, dit, dee-dee-dee-da-da, dee-dee-dit, dee-dee-dee-da, da-da-dee-da. All right, yes, VE3SVQ, also known as the shaky key. I want to have a bit of fun with you today, but it's an interesting topic, and it's one that I think will help new operators a lot. So what you heard when I signed in here was me sending my call sign through code talking. In other words, it wasn't sent on a straight key, but it was code talking. And that's what I want to look at today. It will be fairly short, but I think, like I say, if you pay attention and you try it and you persevere at it, it will definitely help you as a new operator to recognize the sound of those letters. It will definitely help you when you come to send those letters. Let's see what I mean. Now, a lot of the credit for this code talking and some of the exercises that are associated with it goes to Chris NW6V, who's also the author of The CW Way of Life. And he has his own webpage, morsebusters.com, where he has a lot of very good information, certainly helpful information for people learning Morse code. So you should definitely look both of those up. Now, part of the aim for code talking was to help you to recognize the sound of the letter. So in other words, every letter has that sound, very distinctive rhythm pattern or sound. And it was to help your brain recognize that. And down the road, it would help you to get that same type of fluid flow, if you want, of code, your dits and your daws, get it more fluid and not static like dit, daw, dit, instead of dee, daw, dit, and so on. And it does work. Now, when I came over to LICW back in, I think it was December of 2022, they had a section on cold talking in their classes. And when I first started teaching it, they had a section as well where we would focus on code talking the letters that we were learning that day. And I think my reaction was the same as that of many other adults. They're like, you have to be kidding. You expect me to say this out loud? Yes. This works when you say it out loud. But there's that initial reaction that we don't want to sound stupid doing this stuff. But when you work at it, and you can't just dismiss it, and I know a lot of people do, work at it. Work at code talking the letters. Work at the letters that you're having trouble receiving or trouble sending. It will all of a sudden, if you keep at it, a lot of those issues go away. And when I'm on the air and I hear a new operator, and especially, I don't have the easiest call sign. I have a nasty call sign to either send or receive. And at this point, I think it's 14 dits and 7 daws in my call sign. So it's a tough call to send. And if you're new, when I was, certainly was a tough call to send. But if I'm contacting you and you're responding to me, you can hear the hesitation. So that fluid motion, that fluid sound, that rhythm, a lot of the time you miss. And when you're new and you're first on the air, that's one way we can tell that you're new. Because everything you are thinking of everything as a dit, 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 da, as opposed to did-did-dee-da, right? R, for Roger, Roger becomes dit, da, dit instead of dee, da, dit. It's that fluidity, that fluid motion. That's what you're looking for. So code talking will give you that. And I'm going to show you today just a few simple things you can do. And I can tell you when I was first on the air, doing POTA and trying to send my call sign to people, it just wasn't happening. People weren't responding. And if they did, they had it all screwed up. And so I said, okay, it's obviously not them. It's got to be me. So I began code talking my call sign over and over and over again. I have a second call sign I used to use for contests. I used that one too to see which one was easier, right? Let's use the easy one. Not much difference when you get down to it. There were problems with both, lots of dits and very few daws. But it was that practice that suddenly said, aha, now I get it. I've got the pattern. And I've had other operators say, that's a really interesting pattern to your call sign when I send it to you. So this is part of what code talking will help you do. Get you away from dit, da, dit into d, da, dit. And that's the key. That's the key thing that you want to try and accomplish as a new operator or as you learn your various letters. So I'm just going to show you a very simple step-by-step way to look at it. Obviously, you've got to do a lot on your own. Chris has a lot of information on his website as well. All sorts of code talking exercises that you can do. Definitely, if you do it and if you persevere, because yeah, I know it gets boring and we still think it's a little funny and silly when we do it, but it will pay off for you. And that's when you're learning Morse code, that's really what you want. So you're going to start with 3 basic sounds, and you can write them down, however you wish. But essentially, if you look at the dits, all right, if that dit is at the beginning of a letter or in the middle of a letter, you drop the T sound and you write it as D-I. So D. And when you look at it written out, all right, you would write that in small letters. If that dit is right at the end of that letter, then you add the T, so it becomes a very definite dit. In other words, there's a sharp end to it. So DD, if it's in the beginning or the middle of that particular letter sound, or dit if it's at the end of it. So, look at the letter F, diddy-da dit. All right, you can see that diddy-da and dit at the end. So something, it practices. So you write all of those in lowercase, to soften the sound. And then for the da, put that in capital letters because you're going to emphasize the da a little bit. And the da is just that. It comes off as da, D-A-H. So keep that in mind. Keep that as part of your pattern when you're practicing. And keep that sound pattern there as well. So if you're in the process of taking lessons somewhere, some club, some organization that's teaching it, you can look at the letters that you've already done or the numbers, wherever you happen to be in the process, and you can not only send them, because a lot of these organizations will encourage you to send as part of your practice session, you can code talk them. All right? There's lots of opportunities to do that. And the thing to remember when you're doing code talking, it's got some real advantages. You don't need your oscillator. You don't need your straight key or your paddle there with you. You can do code talking anywhere. You can do it in the car. You can do it walking down the street. I very often do it when I'm driving and I'm sitting at a red light and there's a truck up ahead with various lettering on it. Sit there and code talk whatever the advertisement was. So it's something that you can practice virtually anywhere, right? It really doesn't matter, and you don't need equipment for it. Right? You don't need that oscillator. You don't need your straight key. You can do this anywhere. So inexpensive, and it works, which is equally important. The other thing that you can practice a lot, because it will really help you when you go forward, is look at the various CW abbreviations that we use, like TU for thank you, things like that, UR. All those little abbreviations that we use to help our speed, code talk those. Code talk them a lot. Because what will happen, it will help you to send them, but at the same time, you're going to recognize them when someone sends them to you. It just makes it that much easier. Like I say, that the rhythm sound, that pattern becomes so much more evident to you. And you're no longer copying, TU. Your brain is saying thank you. Or someone sends RST. They send it as a word. You're not writing down RST because you're hearing the sound as a word. So all of these things will help you when you're on the air. They make a big difference. And that's the idea of this, is to help you to improve. Now, let's say, for instance, maybe you just got on the air. And we can usually tell, like I said, I can tell by the way someone sends. Did you make a cheat sheet for that one? And there's all sorts of them. I've got ones for different activities, SKCC, POTA, whatever, which if someone wants an example, I can send. Try code talking your sheet. What will you have to send to people? In other words, just looking at one here, Da da dit, dee da. Da, dee dee da. Dee dee da dit, dee da dit. Right? Good afternoon. Thank you for FER and whatever your call, your report, whatever it happens to be. You know, another one would be dee da dit, da, RST. So the more you practice, the more your brain becomes tuned to it, and the easier it is for you to send. And one of the things I think was Chris pointed out, maybe someone else, the letters that you stumble over when you code talk. If you're sending numbers and you're code talking the numbers, right? Not sending them on a straight key, but you're code talking the numbers. And you have a number that you keep stumbling over when you do it. Pretty much guaranteed that's one of those numbers you're going to have trouble receiving and trouble sending. So one of the advantages to doing code talking is it's going to help you out with the ones that you have problems with. You can do them over and over and over again. And like I say, you don't need equipment. Anyways, it's something for you to think about, something for you to try. If I was new, I would say SKCC. Make yourself the exchange that they use. Code talk it, code talk it, code talk it. Send it, send it, send it, and see if your sending patterns change. See if it becomes easier to send. Anyways, just a suggestion for you to try. I think from everyone I know who has done it seriously, it does help. And certainly I can guarantee for myself, it made a huge difference in how I send and even in my spacing, because now I'm remembering to leave that space between the letters and the words and so on. Give it a try. Let me know down below if you've tried it. Let me know if it helps you. And, you've got nothing to lose. And it's a lot of fun. It's Keith, Victor Echo 3, Sierra Victor, Quebec, wishing you a great day. 73.